What's up, everybody? It's Tuesday night. Flyers Talk A, 2, D coming at you on New Year's Eve. Hope everybody has a safe night tonight and enjoys themselves kicking into 2025. We are talking Flyers Sharks live reactions, and we're also going to talk the annual holiday West Coast trip. We're going to talk about the games that were, the game that is currently going on, and the games that are yet to come for the Philadelphia Flyers during this road trip before they come back to face the second half of the home and home against the Toronto Maple Leafs. So it's important to hit that like, hit that subscribe, tell your friends to do the same thing. It's time to go talk some puck. Let's go.
Happy New Year. This is Flyers Talk A2D, and we are powered by the doc. That is Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy, LLC, with 2 locations in Burlington, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Check out our doc. Make them yours. Visit them at specializedphysicaltherapy.com. Matt Sensudi is off enjoying some New Year's Eve festivities and avoiding his 2 teams clashing tonight. Couldn't handle the pressure, but we're hitting the ice with Brian Daly and Brad Ryer on the top line, centered by yours truly, Rob Povia. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe for notifications to all your favorite shows here on A2D Radio. And like Brian broke down, we're discussing the Flyers West Coast trip and giving our live reactions to tonight's game at the Shark Tank. But first, we want your opinion on our face-off poll, which is the Flyers need to sweep the remainder of their road trip for it to be successful. Agree or disagree? We're going to be reading your comments, answering this poll, anything we're talking about, anything you want to talk about all throughout the podcast tonight. But, of course, I'm going to lead off with my 2 line mates, my compadres. Brian, do the Flyers need to sweep the remainder of this road trip?
Before I answer that, shout out to my man, Cam Fowler. First of all, rejuvenating his season after being traded to the St. Louis Blues. But in his 1,000th game, being the first NHL player to play his 1,000th game at the Winter Classic and notching 2 goals. So shout out to my man, Cam Fowler. Not rocking number 4 anymore, but he's rocking number 17 for the St. Louis Blues. Now, to the poll. I'm going to go ahead and say no. I'm going to disagree with the poll. And I think it's a very heavy and a pretty strong disagree because you're seeing some pretty good effort from this team over the last 2 and a third games. Goals are being scored, efforts being played. I don't necessarily think they need to sweep it. I think they need to maintain this consistency. They need to maintain this effort. We've talked about this ad nauseum earlier on in the year. We need to not worry about the result. It's all about the performance on the ice. The performance will lead to the results at some point, but they have to be better defensively, and we saw that in LA. We're seeing a little bit better of an effort against San Jose. Granted, you're looking at 2 teams on 2 different ends of the spectrum here. We're looking at a playoff contender versus a team that's going to probably have the number 1 overall pick, or at least in the top 3. So, game like this, perfect confidence builder. You know, if you can play a strong defensive game, give Erson some support. Got to get the centers involved in the defensive play. All about effort in these next couple of games. I mean, it's tough playing Vegas and then having to travel to Toronto to finish this off and then play Toronto back-to-back. That's going to be a rough 3 games for this team. So
don't forget Dallas after that.
Yeah, Dallas after that. You know, just consistency, continue to put forth the effort. The results will eventually come. For me, this is all about effort. Continue the effort. The results will come with the rest. It doesn't need to be a sweep. For this,
well, that's just a life lesson that Brian is dropping down right there. Be detached from the results and follow the process. Brad, do you agree or disagree to tonight's face-off poll?
I disagree to that because you look at who they have to play. Counting this game tonight, okay, if you can get 3 points in the next 3 games, okay, I think that's pretty successful. I mean, you're playing San Jose, which is the game you have to win. And then hopefully you can at least get a point from Vegas or Toronto. And I think that would be successful and not get blown out because, you're going to be playing 3 very difficult games after this. And then you come home to play Toronto and then Dallas, which is just, that's a brutal schedule. That's a brutal schedule for anybody. So, yeah, let's get 3 points in the next 3 games. I'd sign for that if I was a Flyer fan.
You know what? I agree with you, Brad, because I disagree with this poll. This is trifecta in response to this poll. I just think a sweep is unrealistic. Like to your point, Brad, they're facing some tough teams on the road, teams that are really good in their home building. You talk about the Vegas Flu with the Golden Knights, and then facing Toronto, Brian, to your point earlier, on the front end of a home and home, which makes winning tonight's game all the more important. The Sharks have been struggling as of late. They're 8-1 over the last 10, and they're riding a 3-game losing streak coming into tonight. So for me, a 3-3 trip dating back to that ugly Pens game before the Christmas break would be a success for the Flyers if they could pull it out tonight and gain a W from either the Golden Knights or the Maple Leafs.
No, and I agree with you. I think it's completely unrealistic to expect this team to sweep them. Mainly because, maybe the first half of this road trip could have been a lot easier for them to really grab a hold and give themselves an opportunity to have a really strong road trip. But, they tend to play Vegas well for some reason. I don't know why. Vegas doesn't really ever blow them out. They're usually pretty tightly contested games. Toronto is up in the air. It depends on who's starting in net for Toronto. They have an opportunity.
Matthews is on injured reserve, though.
Their defense and their goaltending to me is still kind of suspect. But, this is probably the better Toronto team that we've seen in a long time, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. And Anthony Stolar does have a lot to do with that. But, it is unrealistic because, now you're going from draft lottery team, playoff team, draft lottery team, and then you're going straight into cup contenders. So it's definitely going to be a tough stretch for this team. It's definitely going to be a test, and we're going to really see what this team is made up of. I would love to see just his defense step up and absolutely start playing a little bit better. And honestly, and like I said earlier, I want to see these centers step up and start playing a 200-foot game. Yeah. It's been hurting them. It's been hurting them not having that. Defense is supposed to support the goaltender. Your forwards are supposed to support your defenseman. They're not really doing that. And to Mike's question here, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Michkov got benched for a really bad defensive play. He needs to shore it up. He needs to work on that defensive side of his game. Then he'll stop getting benched. He needs to start showing more energy, more effort.
Right.
This is what
and
it's
he's
all
not
about.
alone. And it's not just the rookies that are facing the wrath. We see Coots get demoted to the 4th line tonight for his lack of 200-foot game.
Mm-hmm. He's moved down tonight. I think he's 3rd or 4th line tonight?
4th line. Yeah.
4th line? Yeah. Exactly what I'm getting at. So, it's not just putting pucks in the net for these guys. They're doing that pretty well, especially these first 2 games. And even early on today, they're getting great opportunities against Georgiev. They got a lucky bounce to get this first goal. They gotta play better on the back end. Got to play better on the back end. What's up, Greg? Happy New Year, brother.
It's no doubt about it. We saw Michkov respond well against the Kings, right? We saw him get a bump in minutes and come back and respond on the score sheet. So that's what's good about these guys. They're taking the message that Torts laid down and taking it in stride and acknowledging that, Michkov was going to hit a wall. If you didn't expect it, I don't know, did you just start watching hockey this year? Because he's got to build up the stamina. He has not played at this pace. So let's get to some of the fans' comments. We got Michael Hayes here. Thoughts on Lechenko and Bonk delivering in the IHF World Juniors on Team Canada, boys?
Yeah, I haven't gotten to watch much of this tournament, but a lot of high scores. A lot of high scores from what I'm seeing on the scoreboards that I'm seeing. Like, wow, Where's the defense? Where's the goaltending?
I mean, are we surprised in terms of what we've seen? You know, that we're pretty confident this was going to be a great experience and great for their development.
I'm not surprised one bit. Lachenko has been just absolutely lights out in training camp. This kid utilizes his speed. He is absolutely dangerous with the puck, and you're seeing that a little bit more in the World Junior. And you know, also is actually off to a really good start in the World Juniors. Brad's boy Gabe Perreault playing on Team USA. He's been absolutely a monster as well. You know, putting himself in good position. He had a couple goals in the first game. Not exactly sure what he's done since, but I mean, Team USA has kind of been struggling with their goaltending. But
Canada has had their problems too, though.
It's just,
I
think Finland's the team to beat.
I think you might be right.
I think Finland's the team to beat.
Yeah, Canada and USA have been very inconsistent. Especially Canada. That was a disgraceful loss they had the other day.
Oh, I appreciate that, Lenny. I see your comment here at the bottom here.
Yeah. And very, very on point here is, you know, it's unreal to have false cup hopes. This is a rebuilding team, a team that's up 1-0 on the San Jose Sharks, 12:20 left to go in the second period.
Absolutely.
Did you happen to see that save Urson made before on the breakaway?
Oh, it was a beautiful save.
That was a beauty.
Raska dropped the score. But yeah, this tournament's been wild so far.
Right. And I mean, Ericsson's finally hitting his stride, seeing him make some nice saves tonight and also making 32 of 33 saves when he faced Anaheim back on December 28th, looking good in the first game back from the holiday break. And this is according to Jesse Bell, our boy Jesse Bell, who should be joining us shortly of Old City Network.
He literally just commented.
Old City Sports Network and Flyers Alley. That's going to be broadcasting here on A2 Day, as well as more that I'll let Brian go into. But he provided us with a lot of factoids for tonight's broadcast, and that applies. Sam Ersson is finding his form. Another big little tidbit that Jesse drops here is that Philadelphia has a record of 10-7-2-2 when playing on New Year's Eve. But this is the first time the Flyers and San Jose have faced each other on New Year's Eve. I like those little random facts there. They're hard hitting. Love it. Thanks, Jesse, for all information. I'm sure we'll get into more as the show goes on tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Jesse, appreciate you, man. If you don't follow Flyers Alley, go give them boys a follow because they're worth the follow. Good guys over there and becoming quick friends with us.
Great things on the horizon as they face off outside the blue line, excuse me.
I'm sure there's a blue dot in there somewhere.
One thing I'm nervous about coming into tonight's matchup, and we haven't seen it too much tonight yet, but we need to watch out for the second line, and that's the really young, talented line with Fabian Zetterlund, Macklin Celebrini, and Will Smith. Also, another good guy of mine over at Fantasy Guru, Jorge Pucks. These three have only been together for 26 minutes of ice time, but in that short sample, they're generating 40.42 scoring chances and 15.72 high danger chances per 60 minutes of ice time. So they're explosive, they're young, they're hungry, they're in a rebuild too, and they're looking to make a mark.
Yeah, what's crazy is these guys are starting to find that chemistry too. They're starting to get real creative with each other. They're starting to be able to kind of figure out where each other's going to be. And they're going to start wreaking havoc soon. They're going to start getting the results from, the play that they're pushing forward. It's, there's a reason why these guys were taken as high as they were. And Will Smith was projected to be a top 3 pick. Fell to, I think, 4 or 5. He fell out of the top 3 for some reason, but he's another one that's fast. And if he can utilize his speed with Celebrini, those two are going to wreak havoc for a very long time, and Sharks fans should be very happy to have those two.
All they need is just ice time and experience.
Right.
You could see that they've got the skills and they got the speed. Just be two-way players.
Yeah, no, for sure. Speaking of the
Hey,
devil,
getting back, guys, getting back to the center position with the Flyers, and this goes for every team, okay? Center position defensively is the most important position on the team. You got your defenseman, but the center has to take the center on the other team. Okay, that's his job. The defensemen are supposed to cover the wings, and then your wings are supposed to cover the other team's defensemen. Okay, that's why it's really important that your centers are good defenders, because the middle of the ice is where most goals are scored. And if they're not, if the middle can also be considered the slot, especially the slot area. And if your center isn't back there defending in the slot, which is really their responsibility as well as the defenseman, that's where you get killed. And look at number 93 on the Rangers, prime example. Okay, a center that doesn't play defense is going to kill your team. If your centers are not playing good defense, no matter how good your defensemen are, they're not going to be able to get that third man coming in late. It's just not going to happen.
yeah, it depends on the system that you're playing too. A lot of times, the centerman, it's not even. He's just supposed to cover the slot so the defenseman can cycle with the wingers. But it depends on. You're not wrong, Brad. It just depends on the system that they're playing.
Well, almost every defensive system, whether it's man on man in particular, it's always the center covering the other center. But again, the wings are being covered by defensemen, and the forward, the right wing and the left wing are supposed to be covering the defenseman on the other team. So, that if it's man for man, zone usually is the same thing. I mean, that's kind of how you get your chances.
Yeah. To Joe's point, December has been ugly. They definitely have been hitting the skids of late. They look good against Anaheim, but they're also in a similar position as us. So I mean, they're a team that hasn't been good at home in their home building. So it wasn't a surprise to get that one win on the road during this trip. Going back to Michael Hayes, you flashed it up earlier. He goes, "Can we fault Kolosov in his game against the Kings?" I don't think so. I mean, they played very poor defensively in front of Kolosov.
Yeah, I'm pointing the finger at both. Kolosov definitely gave up a couple goals he should have had, but the defense didn't look good in that Kings game. There's just a couple points where the Flyers could have easily run away with that, but turnovers and just bad defensive play just let the Kings continue to get back into it, especially in that third period. You're holding Anze Kopitar basically where you want him, which is not being effective whatsoever, and then you let him get 2 goals in the third period. Got to be better. Got to be better.
One thing about the Kings, guys, the Kings are a big team. When you look at their players, they're a big team. They do tend to wear you down because they're hitting and they're just it's hard to play against guys that are bigger than you. And that is a situation. The Flyers have got to get a little bit more size on their team. That's something I think they really need to do. A center with size would really be most helpful. By the way, the Flyers just scored. Paling, right?
Yep, Paling just scores, makes it 2-0 for the Fly Guys.
I'm about to watch it all the replay as I am a streamer. Hung out to dry. It was some puck luck. The puck found Paling's stick. Got Georgiev down and out and just lifted it up. Got some good elevation, too, for the 2-0 Flyers lead.
San Jose's defense kind of standing around in front of the net.
Can we talk real quick about how good Bobby Brink has been lately?
Oh, amazing.
He has been so good, and he's been so patient with the puck, letting the plays develop before actually doing something and not forcing the play. Good decision with the puck here, moving back to the point. And I didn't see who took the shot from the point, but way to shoot for a rebound knowing that Paling is right there.
Right.
And great patience by Paling there to make Georgiev make the move, and then obviously great move to get the lift on the puck just enough to get over Georgiev and in the back of the net.
Georgiev had no chance on that goal.
No.
That's how you pass it off the goaltender's pads, right?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what they did there. Essentially slap pass off the goaltender.
Well, this is what this line is doing, and it's no surprise that this has been the one line that's been the most consistently paired together in Cates, Forrester, and Brink. And Brink is really showing how much of a playmaker he can be. And we saw that on display over the weekend and right on that shift as well.
Yeah.
Cates has also been scoring too.
Well, yeah, and this line has just been absolutely phenomenal together. And I'm glad that they got to start tonight for that particular reason. They're the hottest 3 players on the roster right now. I mean, you can count Farabee in there. Maybe I might have to start shaving my head again just to get things going here because I mean, it worked for Farabee. Why not see if it works for, other aspects of life? All because they were bored.
Yeah. They put up 5 goals and 1 assist in a 5-game stretch heading into the Kings that got snapped in that stretch too, thanks to Jesse Bellier, Old City Network. Definitely it's looking like a consistent line and a line that Torts can really depend on. And I wrote those same exact words in our Flyers chat for the show when we game plan week to week. I was like, I love Bobby Brink, and I hope he does stick because there has been some talk of him being chopped to potentially the LA Kings, who are looking for a right-handed shooter. Stick with this kid, man. He's got the pedigree. He looks like he's a tough-nosed kid that's just going to grow and become better and better in this league.
No, absolutely. And he was drafted in the 3rd round as one of the best overall just scorers in his draft class. And, for some players, it does take a little while for them to develop in the NHL and get used to playing to the speed. And some guys, it takes a little bit longer than others. I think we're starting to see it click with Brink a little bit. I know last year he still has his moments this year too, but
sure.
I think we're starting to see with the chemistry that he's gaining with Cates and how those two work together and how they work to get the puck, they're reaping the benefits of it. And you know what? That's what I keep saying all the time. Hard work is going to eventually pay off. And that's why I keep saying effort this year. Don't worry about the wins and losses. The results will come. And you're seeing it with this line right now. Everybody's over Sanheim. I don't know.
Pico powerless play. Yeah, the special teams have been dipping. Specifically, even at 4-on-4, it's been putrid. And overall, too, I was looking at some numbers. The Flyers have allowed the 2nd most goals at 5-on-5 over the last 10 games, and they have allowed the most goals in the entire league at all strengths. So I think a lot of this we needed to expect. Because we expected this defense to take a step back. And obviously, this is going to be a center to focus on in the 2025 draft, Brad.
Yeah, they've got to do something about it. I mean, at this point, really over the summer, I think they need to find a center. It doesn't necessarily have to be the most expensive center. Just a good, solid 2-way center.
As we speak, right?
There you go, Joe. There you go, Joe. Don't worry about it, dude. It's reverse psychology. We got you.
How about a
TK
pass
on the PK? Oh no,
let's go.
PK.
How about the pass though?
Yeah, Tippett with his head up
and the one time
looking at the ice.
That was a beautiful play.
Oh yeah,
they're getting some really sweet goals tonight.
Corey, how we doing tonight? Happy New Year or Happy New Year's Eve, however you want to put it.
And we're seeing this team handle business against the lower brow teams too, and competing with some of these tough teams, and they're going to need to do that as this trip continues.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Tippett really has to get going now. When you're playing teams like the teams they have coming up, Dallas, Toronto, Vegas, obviously not in that order. you need to rely heavily on the guys that you lean on. You know, your TKs, your Tippett's, Farabee. Obviously, you're going to need some depth scoring too. But these guys need to step up, and these guys need to be the guys that are on the score sheet just about every night, especially in those types of games, because we know Eichel is going to be a problem. We know William Nylander, I almost called him by his brother's name. He's going to be a problem. Marner's going to be a problem. Wyatt Johnson, Logan Stankoven, who's kind of cooled off a little bit, but he's a colder candidate. Maverick Bourque is another great rookie that Dallas has. They're going to be relying on their guys. You still have to worry about guys like Jamie Benn with Dallas.
Right.
So it's time for these guys that the Flyers need to rely on. They need to step up, and they need to make their presence felt. Love seeing what TK is doing lately. Got to get more of it. Love seeing what Tippett's doing. Got to get more of it. Couturier, show up. Just give me a shot on net or something. Let us know you're there. But these guys need to step up. We need to rely on the vets that are in these lineups to stay competitive in games like this so they don't get blown out.
Right. Or at least Coots get back defensively and be responsible and show that, because that's what's been uncharacteristic. And they're going to need to against, like I said, it's tough going into Vegas and trying to come out with 2 points. And it gets even tougher now, as I just saw recently with the Vegas Golden Knights picking up Victor Olofsson, Eichel's longtime friend from Buffalo, and they've been cooking there out in Sin City. So, it's a tough assignment, and it'll be a true test.
They're fast.
Yeah.
I mean, they are a very speedy team. But the Flyers are getting to a point now where they got a pretty speedy team too, and that's obviously because of all the youth. I mean, you watch, they're basically tonight they're beating San Jose down the ice, and again, you could talk about hard work, but there's some speed on this team now.
No, absolutely.
You could see them getting better and better every game. You really can. I mean, it's not necessarily the wins and losses, because again, they just don't have enough talent, and they're not deep enough yet to be Stanley Cup contenders. But they're right there for the wild card. There's definitely a chance that they could get there. I mean, as long as you're not talking about having to score 100 points. I mean, excuse me, to get 100 points during the season, they've got a shot. I mean, if Ottawa is the 8th place team, why not?
And listen, the one guy that we're forgetting here, that I believe he's got points in 11, or if was it points, 11 points in his last 12 or something like that, 13 games, something like that. Tyson Forster finding the score sheet consistently. This is what we need from. Would I rather than be goals? Yes, but points nonetheless. Some of these young guys are really absolutely starting to take steps forward.
And speaking of taking steps forward, Harrison did out of his crease and almost got blown up. Good to see him still between the pipes.
Oh, good.
Coming back from injury himself. So
I can't wait to get my new apartment so I can actually face my my desk towards the TV.
It's all good, baby. That's why I got 3 of us.
What's
up, Bryce?
See nothing.
What's up, Bryce? Yeah, I'm glad we're up too. Yeah, we should be up. It's going to be a happy new year. Corey Welk going in. I'm sure you guys have heard enough of me and Jesse saying, but I've had enough of Zamula. Let EJ play. And yeah, I get it. But I think his development too, it was important that like he was looking lost out there. Would he be better than Zamula? I think so long term. And there's going to be a lot of pieces that are going to be I saw Joe commenting about that they need a different center between Tippett and Mitchkov that's faster. Well, ultimately that's supposed to be Jet Lachenko, right? Or potentially a guy that you draft in this year's draft if you want to go that route. We have guys on the back end in Bonk and other forwards, Denver Barkley. So I love this, how this team is staggered in terms of the prospect pool.
Yeah, and in terms of EJ, I mean, there's talk about a veteran presence on your back end that can absolutely be extremely beneficial for, he's won a Stanley Cup. He's been around forever. He's played over 1,000 games in the NHL. Like, that's a guy you want on your blue line teaching some of these young guys.
He wrote EJ, and I was reading it as Andre. right. I got what you're saying. EJ. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why you have the vet in the system, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, also too, this is about seeing what you got with Cibula and getting him NHL time. So it's a difficult balance. It's a tightrope.
Absolutely. You know what is not a difficult balance? Let me see if I can get it first. I got to find it. This thing is going to be great. You ready? Hit that like, hit that subscribe, turn on those notifications. Don't miss anything that we have to offer here at A2D Radio. We also got Flyers Alley being attached to us as well every Monday night, or I'm sorry, Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock. I don't know why I thought it was Monday. Boy, am I ready for this year to turn. But definitely check out Flyers Alley. Give them a like, give them a sub. Check them out every Sunday afternoon. You got us on Tuesday nights. Plenty of hockey coverage, and there's more to come. Not going to get too much into it yet because won't have a whole lot of information to throw out there, but just know there's more coming.
Interesting. Very interesting. All right, boys. So we've been kind of alluding to it. Yeah, we are looking good versus Sharks. Thanks, Old City. They're looking good tonight, right, against lower competition. But as we saw against the Los Angeles Kings, not so much as we saw even before the break with the Pittsburgh Penguins. It was rough go at in terms of this team giving up goals at a historic mark. So, Brian, let's go through the ups and downs that has been this road trip, and we'll focus on here on the West Coast. Flyers were 3-1 winners over the Anaheim Ducks. Looked pretty solid, played solid defensively in that game, albeit Mitchkov getting benched for the second half of that game as he really hit a wall. And then, as I alluded to earlier, came back, upped his ice minutes, looked good in the Kings game. Unfortunately, it didn't result in a win. It was a 5-4 loss to the LA Kings, and they're a strong team. And as we mentioned earlier, Flyers up 3-0 on San Jose Sharks tonight with the Golden Knights left to go on January 2nd. So, boys, what have you noticed? What have you seen? What is this team doing well? What do they need to work on? And what's key to their success in making a playoff spot?
I think the one thing that they've been doing really well, and you saw it more so in Anaheim than you saw it in Los Angeles, utilizing speed and getting on the forecheck. That's something that they, John Tortorella continues to preach: forecheck, utilizing speed, playing defensively. I thought they did that very well against Anaheim. Only held Anaheim to one goal, and it was the one goal by Troy Terry, which I think was in the first period, and then shut them down the rest of the way. So massive confidence building win for the Flyers there. That's been like my big thing, even against LA, minus the defensive flub that Mitchkov had, and minus the fact that, yes, he hit a wall and he's a rookie. He played a ton of hockey coming over. I'm sure he's tired. They continue to utilize the speed, utilize the forecheck, winning puck battles, which we're seeing especially tonight. That's one of the things that I think they've been doing well in this road trip. And it's like, again, tonight, they're spending a lot of time in the offensive zone. That's taking a lot of pressure off their goalie. And that's massive in this league, and especially for a goaltender who's been out that's trying to refine his groove. You take as much pressure off him as you possibly can. The more confident he's going to be, the better he's going to play, and you're seeing that from Mershon tonight.
I think a lot of it with the Flyers, their defensemen are starting to chip in too, and that's very important. That they're becoming part of the offense. You're seeing them involved and following up on plays, coming in late. Those are things that good teams do, and they're starting to play like that, and that's something that you want to see. And that's Tortorella's game too. The forwards get in on the forecheck, and then they pass the puck back, and the defensemen come in late. When that first shot is taken by one of the wings or the center, the defenseman can come in late and make a play. And that when the other team's out of position. And I've seen that happening a lot more with the Flyers, especially tonight. I mean, you talk about that goal, the second goal. That was where it was like a shot pass.
Yep.
That's the kind of play that good teams make, and that they're aware of what's going on. And when you're skilled enough to make plays like that, and you're aware enough to make plays like that, you're going to start scoring a lot of goals. And they're really starting to look a lot better now.
Yeah.
I just think it's a matter of just these guys playing together. I mean, you look at some of the teams that are in the playoffs. A lot of the teams, I should say, that are in the playoffs. Okay, they got the same players and they've been playing together for years. These guys, a lot of these guys are first, second, maybe third year players, and they haven't played together that long, and they need to. You're starting to see the results of these guys playing together, and they're knowing where each other's going to be. I mean, that goal that Konechny scored, that was a fabulous play. And it wasn't on a power play. It was a east to west pass,
Right.
and it shot right off the pass. And those are the kind of plays that win games. Those kind of goals.
Yeah. And we saw one earlier that was taken off the scoreboard due to the play being challenged for offsides, where it was the same type of play, passing, hitting that stick down on the ice right in front of the net, and that was Morgan Frost. You'd like to see more from that from Morgan, right, Brian?
No, absolutely. He's another one that's been playing pretty well overall lately. He's starting to get some payoffs with a couple goals in his last few games. But you definitely need to see more than that from Morgan. He's a guy that a lot of people are kind of ready to trade, and I'm on that list. I'll be honest. I'm over the Morgan Frost experiment. This is a guy who came out of the draft again as another really good top scorer. Where is it? Where's the consistency? I thought he had a really good year last year, but the games that he tends to play better are the games that he has, games when he's coming off of being a healthy scratch. He can't afford to play like that. You're seeing him play better of late, I think. But he needs to he's really 25, 26 years old. Morgan Frost has to take that next step. He's long overdue.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. I definitely don't disagree with that. I think at times you see him, he lights up the analytic stat sheet, but not always getting the results on the ice, and that's what makes it frustrating. But one thing that I have been seeing, just to be a little bit disagreeable, what's up, Priz? Hawks were embarrassing tonight. Sorry to hear you. Sorry for that. But maybe we get a return of Jonathan Twinkle Toes Tays, who's talking about making a comeback.
Maybe.
Yeah, that was Priz dropping that information. I love the people that tune in and are part of this Flyers network, this Flyers family, this NHL family that we're creating here at A2 Day. We're all, together. We got everything. We got our finger on the pulse. But this team has been really good in terms of creating turnovers, right? So I kind of disagree that, have they been guilty of coughing up the puck themselves? Yes, but Twinkle Toes, yeah. But we've been seeing that number go down and the takeaways go up. So that's been an encouraging sight for me. I know I read that throughout the immense amount of notes through Jesse Bell and Old City Sports Network. And I can't find it directly, but I know that I did read that earlier today in terms of, creating turnovers, Brad. And I mean, that's what they need to do more of, play that physical forechecking brand of hockey to get the other team to make a mistake.
Yeah, they absolutely. I mean, when they're getting in on the forecheck and creating turnovers, that's very important. And I mean, you take a look also at the puck possession in the attacking zone. That's another area where they seem to be doing a nice job. They keep the pressure on. I mean, it's very important. If you get extended attack zone time, you tire the other team out, because the other team has to go chasing you all over the ice, and that's where you see mistakes when guys are on the ice too long because they're tired. That's where you start seeing a lot of mistakes, and it also it has a lot to do with the third period as well. If they're chasing you the whole game, because you're managing the puck in their end the whole time. Playing defense is a lot more physically demanding than playing offense, and it always will be. So if you have puck control and you're playing in the other team's end, you're unless you're getting horrible goaltending, you're going to win the game.
It's a winning formula, as we're seeing tonight. Flyers up 3-0 after 40.
Yeah, and they pretty much dominated this game. Let's be honest. Yes, Urson's made a couple of really nice saves, but the Flyers have had the puck for the most part. It's been their puck, and they've had control of it. The puck's been for the most part in San Jose's defensive end, and again, San Jose is still very deeply involved in a rebuild. Okay, the Flyers are a lot closer to coming out of that rebuild than San Jose. So, again, these are the kind of games, especially now, the Flyers have to win. They've got to beat teams like San Jose because, again, their upcoming schedule is just brutal.
Well,
I know after they finish playing all these teams, they get to play Anaheim, but then boom, I think after that, I think they have Florida, and then they have a couple of games against the Devils. It doesn't get any easier.
And the one thing that I think this team needs to improve on is shutting down teams in the third period. Looking at the goals against over the last 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 15, 16 games, third periods they've given up no goals once, and they've given up one goal twice, and they've given up multiple goals in the third period in the other 14. So,
well, I think a lot of it is
ways to shut teams down. Shell. I mean, you give up 2 goals, 3 goals, 2 goals, 2 goals. They gave up 4 goals the other night against Pittsburgh in the third period. You got to figure out ways to shut these teams down. You're going into the third period with the lead. Last year, this was one of the best third period teams in the league, and now they just can't seem to close them out.
Well, I think as you start getting a younger roster, that's going to be problematic. You know what I mean? But I think Torch is the type of coach that'll beat that, just like you're hitting that rug out on the clothesline, getting that dust out. You know what I mean?
Kicking old school. I got you. Yeah. But I mean, even earlier in the year, they had their woes. But if 1, 2, 3, like they had a handful of games where they gave up multiple goals in the third period. But a lot of them were, shutting teams down in the third period and closing games out. And you're right, Rob. Like to an extent, a younger team, you're gonna run into some of those issues, especially when you're, on a streak, or you're a streaky team because of that. But with this John Tortorella team and being one of the leading teams in shot blocking in the NHL, you just expect to be better in the third period. You know what I mean? Like you expect to sit there and be like, okay, we have a lead. Let's not let off the gas pedal and let's keep going. The last couple weeks, they've been letting their foot off the gas pedal in the third period, and it's cost them.
Well, a lot of times they stop attacking, and they're kind of playing defensively and not playing to win. I mean, they've got to stay aggressive and try to score more in the third period. That's a lot of it too. A lot of, and this happens with a lot of young teams. A lot of young teams, they'll sit there and they all of a sudden go into a defensive shell in the third period and let the other team take the play away from them. That's something that's got to stop. I'll tell you what, they just showed that goal again by Konechny. That was beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Yep. That I remember Mika Zibanejad used to do that a lot. But now every time Mika's on the ice, it seems like the other team's doing it. So
that entire
I
had to get my nasty Zibanejad jab in there.
TK with his 17th goal in the season.
Yeah, unfortunately,
he's been terrific. I mean, he's going to end up with 30, 35 goals this year.
Money well spent. When we talk about whether this team should resign him or not, he's been, living up to the billing.
Mm-hmm. The only thing I'm going to say about the Rangers is, they've given up on that organization, so they need to start making some changes, starting with, in my opinion, Chris Drury, and then go to Laviolette.
But, yep.
Anyway,
I would agree.
So
would agree. They also Zibanejad said he would waive his no movement clause if he finds a comfortable spot, if they find a comfortable spot for him. So there's hope there.
But for the Flyers to kind of like they had 5 games in that 15-game stretch where they didn't score in the third period. They've been scoring in the third period pretty consistently all year, but it's like 1 or 2 goals. They just need to find a way to get 1 or 2 more. So if they can find a way to get some of those games up to 2, maybe 3 goals in the third period, really shut these teams down. This team can really. We talked earlier in the year about this team potentially being a playoff team. If they can figure out a way to get 1 or 2 more goals consistently in the third period and really shut these teams down, Flyers could be a serious contender for a wild card spot.
Well, having the lead late leads to goals because you get empty net goals. So there's one thing for you.
Yeah.
You know, be able to hang on to that lead. You know, force the other teams with 3-4 minutes to go to pull that goaltender, and then you score another goal and the game's over.
Wait, how am I doing this?
You're doing
You're
good.
doing it, sorta.
There it goes.
It's easier for me. It's easy because I'm right here. You know, I'm over here now.
It's the angle. That's what she said.
But here's the question. Here's the
reverse
question
angle
that I
up
pose out because I hear this all the time when I'm out chatting in the Flyers Extreme group, awesome group here on Facebook, also in Flyers Talk as well, that a lot of the fan base is not rooting for this team to make the playoffs, that you have a lot of picks in the first and second round. Why not try to make them as high up as they can be? Do you boys believe in that philosophy, or do you think that it's more important for the development of this team to continue striving for a playoff spot?
To a point, yes. But if you're talking about maybe the first 3 picks in the draft, yeah. But you know, you're when you start getting to a point where you're between like 9 and 15, there's not a whole lot of a difference there. You know, all the players are pretty good, and it's just basically, you know, if you're able to, develop them, who's the best at talent developing? Because you're going to get all good players anyway.
Right, especially the way this front office has looked to draft, right? Not going by the mock drafts and the best overall, but the players that they want, not getting, you know, the most talented, but focusing on the right players, as we saw, as evident by Jet Lachenko. So maybe it doesn't matter as much.
Yeah, I mean, there's
unless you're getting one of the top 3 picks, you know, maybe this year the top 5, because the top 5 are really good. From what I've heard, the top one, I can't remember his name, but they've mentioned them several times. If you've watched the junior championships, they've been mentioning the guy's name several times. I just can't remember his name.
To me, it's if you're not, it's got to be really good fit. It's got to be really good fit. I mean, I'm hearing different things. Like Corey and Jesse are saying on Flyers Alley that this is not the best draft, but I've also heard the complete opposite, that this draft is actually really deep. I guess it depends on who you're listening to.
I've heard that this is a deep draft.
I've heard both, but
yeah, I haven't heard
drafting.
I haven't heard that there's Austin Matthews in there.
There's no Austin
There's
Matthews
a lot
in
of
there
really
for sure.
good players.
But I just, at this point where the Flyers are, they're about developing what they have, which is great. Got to make the right addition at the right time, though. If you're going to move a first-round pick, it's got to be for the right person. There's a lot of people out there that don't think one and done in the playoffs is going to be good experience. I'm on the fence with that. I think if you can get this team to the playoffs as is, and gives the team something to build off of, I think that you see a completely different team next year. You're going to see a hungrier team next year. But I'm also not going to go out and trade for a 33-year-old vet like Brock Nelson, who, let's be real, would probably help the Flyers. But that's only in the short term. I'm looking to make an addition for somebody who's going to be a long-term solution. So if you can go out, and I know they said that they're not going to trade him, and I understand why. If you can go out and get a guy like a Marco Rossi, or I mean, this guy's been in trade rumors all season long. Go out and get Dylan Cousins, somebody like that, a 24, 25-year-old that will help this team long term. Make the move. But he can't be for a guy like
28-year-old. If you get a 28-year-old, that would work too. Just a 34-year-old player like Nelson, I would agree with you. I mean, he's good for maybe a year or 2 years. He's the kind of guy you get when you're knocking at the door of winning the Stanley Cup, not when you're just trying to make the playoffs.
Yeah, but the thing I like about Dylan Cousins is a little bit more is that he can play a solid defensive game as well.
No,
So he
I
can
was
probably
talking
help
about
the
Nelson,
penalty
but
kill for
Cousins,
sure.
yeah. Cousins is a different story. Yeah, I like him. I mean, the kind of guy you guys could really use is that guy Thompson on Buffalo. That would really, that's the kind of guy you really need to get if you're going to make a trade and give up draft picks.
I would have a tendency to agree with you both, but didn't the Flyers just give Hathaway money?
She did.
Well, how old is he?
28, 29? I will verify that.
I thought he was on the plus side of 30, but
He could be.
Hathaway is one of those character players.
Right.
True.
Good for the locker room. Good for teaching young kids how to be a pro. Right.
Yeah, and also, he protects the other guy. He protects the other guys.
Ooh.
Right.
Wouldn't think twice of bending the rules a little bit to nail somebody if they did something that's that he would find offensive.
Right.
Oh, 33. Oof.
33.
33.
Yeah. So about the same age as Brock, right? So the reason why I brought him up in past shows was that if you were looking, because as I saw with other teams last year, sometimes you just need to punch your ticket, right? And you can see where that ride takes you. And if you can get a Brock Nelson for a bag of peanuts, like you trade him like, a Lehigh guy and maybe a late round pick in next year's draft, about to be this year's draft in about 2 hours on the East Coast. I say why not? So I mean, but that's under the belief that you're trying to do as much as you can with what you are now and not going the other route in terms of not making the playoffs a priority and focusing on the rebuild. So do I agree that would be the wrong move? I do. I'm just saying it's something you could do if your goal was to see how far you could take this team into the playoffs to gain experience and to further their development. Just having another guy that's been there, that's been on championship winning teams, right? Or a playoff winning teams in Brock Nelson. So hey, like I said, I would much rather focus on getting a younger player like a Dylan Cousins. Sign me up for that 8 days a week.
Yeah. And you know what? You brought up a good point. With Brock Nelson, I believe, being in a contract year, it's kind of a win-lose for the Flyers, or it's a win-win for the Flyers because
if you can get him for a fourth-round pick, if it's a fourth or third-round pick, why not? But not a first or second-round pick.
We've seen crazy shit in the Stanley Cup playoffs. All you have to do is get in and give yourself a chance.
Right.
And if Brock Nelson could be that guy to take that next step, I mean, first of all, you're getting a good leader out of the guy. You're getting a guy who can score goals. You're getting a guy who can set the play up. You're getting a guy who can play a 200-foot game. It's not great, but it's better than what some of the centers the Flyers have now. So, yeah, I mean, I could definitely see the Flyers adding a piece like that, but not right now. Give them a couple years. Stick. Yeah, I forgot the game was on.
Yeah, just picked up the third period. Cody Ceci high sticking.
I need to turn my stuff around. But
I got you. I'm filling Maddie's role. I'm keeping tabs.
This is why we keep you around, Robbie.
Yeah. It's all reason.
No, there's a bunch of reasons. That's just one of them. But I mean, if this is a couple years down the road, and it's a piece where you can add, to complete to really go after a cup, sign me up for that 8 days a week and twice on Sunday.
Yeah. Agreed. You know, like I said, I think that the setter, that 200-foot player, that speed guy, right, is Jet Lachenko, or your draft pick. You know what I mean? So none of this is a long-term solution that we're speaking of here. So
Well, a guy
what's
like
up, Heather?
Schulte, what on Ottawa. I mean, those are the kind of guys you want to try to. If you're going to give up first round picks, those are the kind of guys you want to try to get.
Sure.
You know, they can grow with the team, not 34, 35-year-olds just to make the playoffs. Yeah, unless you're giving up maybe a fourth round pick, a third or a fourth round pick. Okay, if you're doing that, but you're going to start trading first round picks for guys like that. That's the quickest way to completely screw up the rebuild.
Right, and that's not anything I expect from Briere and Jonesy. That's not been in their DNA since they've held their positions. Past administrations, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I wouldn't be surprised if you see them swipe a young star from another team. I really wouldn't. But it would have. But again, it's got to be a guy who ages within the team and stays with the team. If the guy's like more than 28. It's by the time they're really good and ready to try to win the Stanley Cup, the guy's not going to be there, or he's well past his prime. What's the point?
Right.
He's not there. My fridge is empty. Sorry, Mike.
Oh boy,
my fridge is empty. I need to go shopping.
Oh, I hear some boomers out there. People getting started on New Year's Eve. First, we had some natural fireworks.
4-0.
Just in time. That's why they were setting the fireworks off. It's 4-0.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, buddy. Who that? Who did that?
And inversely too, we have Koloslov between the net coming out in the third period.
Who got that? Forrester?
Brink?
Or Brink? No, Forrester. That wasn't Brink. Nice pass by Zamula, though.
No, that was all Brink, baby.
BB.
Yeah, Brink continues to play well. And that net front presence, I'll tell you what, Tortorella has really done a real good job with this team. He really has. When you take a look at where they were when he first came, and where they are now, and the average age on this team, I mean, he's done a nice job. I know there are some Flyer fans out there that are expecting playoffs, and that's not fair. Not if you're trying to build a team with a lot of young players. You got to be patient. Patience in this case will be virtue.
They're also very selective in where they're shooting from tonight, and they are getting some prime scoring chances.
Yeah,
wow. I don't know how he didn't cover up.
Yeah, it is indeed Alexei Koloslov that's in net in place of Sam Arison to start the third period. According to Jordan Hall, Arison must be dealing with something. Arison out, no word yet on an injury. According to Wayne Fish, he may have been hurt in that collision with Sharks Luke Kunin that I referenced earlier in the show.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
maybe they just don't want to take any chances because he's questionable and
he's just coming back too.
Win the game.
Truth. It's a game that you're up 3-0, but also too, coming into the third at that point, but also too, I don't like when you continue playing and then you come in during an intermission and maybe you take the pads off, maybe you take the skate off, and all of a sudden something's swelling up. Like that could be, bueno. We'll have to keep tabs on that.
No, for sure.
It's not as vital because of the depth that the Flyers have built in net, but you want to carry that depth and maybe use it to your advantage, whether that be through trade, whether that be through rotation.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? You never want to see anybody go down. This is a guy who's just coming back. So to see this kind of makes you a little worrisome, but it could also just be completely precautionary, where it's just like, let's not take a chance. Just take the rest of the game off. We got another guy in here that can take care of that. So
Right.
Yeah, he just may have gotten banged up, and why? They have the game in hand. They're not losing this game. It's now 4-0. It would be nice for him to get the shutout, but you know what? If he's not 100%, what's the point?
Right. Agreed. I kind of don't want to. I don't want to sign off when we're right here in the middle of the third period, but we are up against it right now at the 10:06 hour on the East Coast. Happy New Year's! If you're just tuning into us, definitely be safe, be healthy. It's a little rainy out here in the East Coast around Philadelphia too. A little slick out there, I'm sure. So, always have that designated driver.
definitely for sure tonight.
Or save a few extra bucks for a cab.
Yeah, agreed.
If you're alive, you can always go back and get your car.
Exactly. Heather saying, not impressed with Harrison lately, just not. Hey, you look better against the Kings, though. I'm sorry, against Anaheim, though. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of talented goal scorers on that team, as they come together, too. I mean, Troy Terry looked dead nasty in that game.
Yeah, well,
he's coming back to being relevant.
Anybody that's not for Dotov, she doesn't.
I hear you.
Anybody that's not for Dotov, that's all she wants.
I hear. Well, this is why I'm nervous. Is that if we are dealing with an Harrison injury, right? That's thanks, Prez. Appreciate you, man. Happy New Year to you down in Dallas. You got 3 hours to go, I believe, on that Central Time.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want to hurt Harrison's trade value potentially too. That if maybe the Flyers are slipping, further and further back from a second wild card, Brad, Harrison could be that goaltender that you move to relieve that log jam and give a playoff or a team in the playoff position another choice between the pipes.
Absolutely. Maybe they can get that young center that they need so badly there too. It doesn't always have to be a draft pick, Rob.
Yeah.
It could be a prospect. There's nothing wrong with a prospect that's in the AHL. It's another team's one of their top prospects that just doesn't have a spot to play yet. There's a lot of players down there like that, and if you can swipe one of them,
right, a guy that's had professional minutes, right, that shows that he can operate on the AHL level, maybe NHL level.
No, a good solid
minutes.
AHL player that's been in the NHL, has some NHL experience, and in your mind, you could see that he has a pretty high ceiling. He just doesn't have a spot yet.
Right.
I could give you a Ranger who was a perfect example of that. Remember Ryan Callahan?
Yep.
Okay. Do you know how many times he was called up before he finally stuck? Like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
If another team went when they kept sending him to the minors, went and tried to get him, that's the kind of guy I'm talking about. Like if you can find a guy like that gets up, then he gets sent down. Gets up, then he gets sent down because he just hasn't quite stuck yet. That's the kind of player, and that you can steal a guy like that.
Absolutely.
I don't know who they are because I'm not really, very adverse with the AHL. So
we'll have to get out our crystal ball for next week because for now, let's pay some bills before we get up out of here. We want to thank our friends over at Old City Sports Network, Jesse Bell, always for supporting the show, being part of the A2D family. We want to thank Dr. Paul Vidal, who helps keep the lights on, and he's at Specialized Physical Therapy, LLC. They got 2 locations, Burlington, Cherry Hill, New Jersey, wherever you're closer to in the South Jersey area. Go check them out. Go get those aches and pains relieved. It's time to get healthy. We're almost here in 2025. Check them out online, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. All right, boys. Well, hopefully the Flyers can continue with this game and continue with their winning ways on this West Coast trip. Happy New Year's, Joe. We love you. We love all the fam for chiming in as always. For Matt Sudi, who's off enjoying himself on New Year's Eve, we love you, man. Be safe. Miss you. Hopefully we get you back next week. Brian Daly, Brad Ryer, I'm Rob Povia. Happy New Year, people. We'll see you next week. We'll see you next year.
See you next year, guys. Be safe. Please be safe tonight. Don't drink and drive. Happy New Year.